Well, now that we've taken a look at the wizards, let's delve a little bit deeper. Go beyond the wizards, at least for several chapters, for a while at least. And now let's start getting into creating our own packages by hand, manually, if it were. Now, let me just also tell you, we're going to create some pretty simple packages here in Chapter 2. We're not going to get into details about the data flow tasks and all the various tasks. Just a reminder, that kind of thing is coming up. Right now, it's just about creating your very first package, getting comfortable in the BIDS tool, the Visual Studio environment, understanding how packages are saved and how we arrange multiple packages and things like that. That's all we're really going to focus on right now. The next chapters 3 and 4 are going to then get us into some more detailed packages. But this is just a gentle introduction, right? So, you know what? I don't care which one you go to. You can go to SQL Server 2008, to the BIDS tool, the Business Intelligence Development Studio thing, or you can go to Visual Studio 2008. It makes no difference. No one cares. No change whatsoever. It's all marketing hype to rename the Visual Studio some other tool. So I'm not much for marketing hype, so I tend to go to the Visual Studio 2008. I don't care, again, which one you go to. So I'm going to go to the Visual Studio. Now I've got a blank environment here. If you watched the first videos and you configured your Visual Studio the way I've configured mine, then you probably have the same thing. You might be, though, give me just a second to change this back to the default. Yours might look like this, so I'm going to go back to the Visual Studio. I know I just went pretty fast through that, but it's cool. It's not important info here. Yours may look like this. This may be what you actually, well, that's not, no, what? That's not what I want. Um, it's not what I wanted it to show. Um, so start page. That's what I meant to say. The start page. Sorry. Let me try again. Visual Studio 2008. This is the default configuration. Sorry about that. I think this is not really a helpful page. It slows things down because it wants me to do RSS feeds and I got to wait for it to download. And you know what? I am a performance junkie. I'm constantly in the Visual Studio and I like every little tweak I can to make it faster. And so my first tweak that I always do for the Visual Studio is junk the start page. I close it, I go to Tools and Options, Environment, and I tell it to, under the startup, to show an empty environment. That's what I prefer. Okay, that's the one that I like. You do whatever you want. It doesn't matter, does it? No, it doesn't really make a difference. But so anyhow, I am in a naked environment here in the Visual Studio, that is. So here's what we want to do. We, as SSIS developers, are going to create a new project. So I'm assuming this is your very first SSIS project. So I'm going to make a new project. And I need to make sure that I choose the business intelligence projects. And I want to, for the time being, to create an integration services project. Now, I do want to put it somewhere helpful. This is a fairly standard location for most local developments. And when I say local, I mean it's local on your machine. It's not deployed to the server in this particular location, but in your machine, this is where you will be working with most of your Visual Studio projects. So I'm actually cool with that. And I'm going to create a solution and a project. So now let me just remind you, I'm assuming that you've watched chapter 1 and you're kind of doing a logical flow here, but just in case, let's do this. So a solution can contain many projects, right? So the solution would be called Scott's SSIS, for example. And then the projects are going to, and I just accidentally did something that I didn't mean to do. So this would be my import access, and that's going to be a project. Okay. And then I would have another one, import Excel, and that will be another project. And the key point about this, and by the way, this project would be of a type SSIS. And then I might have a DBA reports, which could be an SSIS, an SSRS project. So the key takeaway from this little halfway done drawing is that a solution contains N projects. So it can contain one or more projects. And a solution can have projects of multiple types. We can have a website project, an SSIS, an SSRS, a C# DLL. We can have projects of many types inside of our solution. Okay? So, back over on our project here, let's close out of this. I'm going to create an integration services project. We'll call this first SSIS solution. And we'll call the project first SSIS project. Okay, so if you're following along at home, there's what I'm setting mine up to be. So the solution and the project can have the same name, but it's not advisable if you're going to be adding additional projects to a solution later on. Generally speaking, you want to think of the solution as the highest level. So the name of the solution should give you some sort of an indication of what types of packages or what the business function of the packages contained therein would be. So I didn't do that though. This is actually, it's just called first because we're kind of using it as an example. But if I'll give you an example, one that I have here. So one solution name that I actually have is Learn It First Web. And then underneath the Learn It First web solution, I have various different projects. Import SQL data project, okay, which is going to have multiple packages to import SQL data into the website from various sources. And then we would have a reporting project. We would have various little pieces that would go along with this. But I am going to create it as first SSIS solution and first SSIS project. Okay. And I am going to tell it to create a directory. Let me just go here. So I'm going to copy that. Well, I'll just go up here. And you can see that Scott's SSIS, that's actually from maybe a couple of weeks ago here. I think we were doing something in chapter 1 for that. That's not what I'm doing now. You'll notice that that first SSIS solution is different. This is the solution folder. So as soon as I say OK, it's actually going to create the first SSIS solution folder. And we can drill down and we see a solution file, a .sln file. And if we were to open that with some type of a text editor, I'm partial to using TextPad myself. When we take a look at that, you can actually see this is sort of a config file. And it contains a single project. You can see the project opening up. It's called First SSIS Project. You can see that it has a type, a file type of DT-Proj. So that was a data transformation project. That's one of the old holdover file names from when it used to be called DTS in SQL Server 2005, and then they changed the name to SSIS a little bit late in the game. So let's close out of here. And then here is the project. So each project is going to have a separate folder, and we can actually see now many of the file types that we see.